Hey there, Sheryl here, mental toughness coach, published author, speaker, and mother of a couple of great kids who are now high school and college Division I student athletes. Today is going to be a little unique in that we're not talking about success tips per se, but we're going to talk about how you respond to failure. And ultimately, this is going to help you be successful and get the results that you want and deserve. Now, if you're human, like all of us are, we're going to experience failure. It's not a matter of if we will, it's when we will. And here's the thing, quick example, even people like Serena Williams experience failure. A few months back, last March, when she was in the Miami Open after having her daughter, she had an early exit in round one. And in her mind, she started to think about that as being a failure, but she actually looked at it a little differently and she responded in a certain way that can really serve us. And we're going to talk about a few tips that can help you respond to failure so you can bounce back just like Serena Williams has been doing. Now, excuse me, Martin Seligman is the founding father of positive psychology, and he's done decades and decades of research on this, and I'm going to share a couple tips with you that helps you respond to failure. It helps you to be more resistant, to bounce back quicker, and ultimately, if you can do this correctly, to be more happy. Now, here's the thing. We need to think about our explanatory style. In other words, when we fail, how do we explain it to ourselves? And a lot of people react different ways. There's a pessimistic way of explaining failure to ourselves, and there's also an optimistic way of explaining failure to ourselves. And according to Martin Seligman, who wrote the book Learned Optimism, it's incredibly important that we have an optimistic explanatory style, because that will help us to be more resilient, to get back on track quicker, and also to be more happy about our results. And that has a huge effect on motivation. So here's a couple of tips on how you can respond the next time that you fail so you can have the best outcome possible, or so you can improve and make progress towards the outcome that you want and deserve. The first thing is, when you fail, is really think of that failure as an isolated incident. In other words, if you have an interview for a job and it goes poorly, it doesn't mean necessarily that you're not qualified or anything like that. Or if you have a pitch or a client interaction, or maybe if you're a student and you take a test and it doesn't go quite well, doing poorly on a test doesn't mean you're not smart. It means that maybe you didn't prepare well. And if you have a pitch or presentation that doesn't go right, doesn't mean that you're not capable of deserving or qualified to have an amazing pitch or presentation. It means that it's an isolated event. It's very important to look at failures in a very isolated way rather than being very broad. So in other words, not doing well on a test and thinking you're not smart, or not having a successful pitch or presentation or interview and just thinking that you're across the board not qualified or not capable. So the first thing is to make sure when you fail, to make sure that you view it as an isolated incident. The second thing is to understand that you can bounce back and you can improve. So in other words, it's not a fixed period of time. In other words, it's important to understand that when you fail, it's an isolated incident for a fixed period of time, and it's possible to go back and study and work harder and prepare more and to get better. Now, if you need to have a little bit of time to be upset or disappointed or what have you, that's totally fine, but then it's very important to go back and commit and believe that you can do better, and that's really the definition of being resilient. And the third thing with having a positive explanatory style is to understand that when you fail, it's unrelated to other things. So in other words, someone who's incredibly pessimistic, maybe if they get fired from a job, they might think that they're unworthy of having a good relationship, that they are just, their whole life is just a mess. And another person who has a more positive explanatory style might think that something went wrong with that job, and it was again an isolated event, but it's unrelated to their personal wellness. They keep exercising, it's unrelated to their relationship, so they're still a good spouse or partner, and they still put a lot of effort into their kids or what have you, but they're just not so happy about what happened with their job. And so really, it's important to understand that whenever you have a failure, it's unrelated to other events. So if you are a student, you do poorly on a test, it doesn't carry over into that you're a failure in other aspects of your life. So I hope that that makes sense. So just to sum it up, if you want to have a better explanatory style and you want to explain failure to yourself in a similar way that world-class performers explain failure to themselves and learn from it so you can make progress and get better, it's really important to understand that, number one, your failure is an isolated incident. It doesn't define you. And number two, it's okay to feel bad, and it's okay to give yourself a little space for that, but then it's important to commit to make progress. And three, to understand that when you fail, it's unrelated to other aspects of your life. That in turn will help you have an optimistic, explanatory style. It will help you to be more resilient. It will help you to make more progress and make it quicker. Will likely make you happier because optimistic people with an optimistic explanatory style tend to be happier. And according to Dr. Seligman, it may even help boost your immunity as well. So here's to you being amazing. Please, if you're not on my list, go ahead and hop on there. If someone just forwarded this to you, that way you'll get future free content like this at www.sherylkline.com. Also, please do reach out to me if I can help or serve you in any way or make this content real for you, and you can do that on my website as well. Here's to you being amazing. Look forward to seeing you next time.